Old Testament reading this week in the lectionary comes from Isaiah, the 5th chapter, verses 1 through 7. Some of you will know this as the parable of the vineyard, is what it's called in some of your fancy Bibles. And we will be using this as the basis for our sermon this morning. Let us read from Isaiah 5, verses 1 through 7, and it reads as follows. I will sing for the one I love a song about his vineyard. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it up and cleared it of stones and planted it with the choicest vines. He built a watchtower in it and cut out a winepress as well. Then he looked for a crop of good grapes, but it yielded only bad fruit. Now you dwellers in Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done for my vineyard than I have done for it? When I looked for good grapes, why did it yield only bad? Now I will tell you what I'm going to do with my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it will be destroyed. I will break down its wall, and it will be trampled. I will make it a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated, and briars and thorns will grow there. I will command the clouds not to rain on it. The vineyard of the Lord Almighty is the nation of Israel, and the people of Judah are the vines he delighted in. And he looked for justice, but he saw bloodshed, for righteousness, but he heard cries of distress. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God indeed. Motorcycles have been part of my life as far back as I can remember. Dirt bikes, racing them. Street bikes, racing them.
Choppers.
Soup to nuts. In one year, when I was about 11 or 12, my buddies and I went to his great uncle. And we told him, said, Mr. Alley, we would like to put a dirt track around your pond. We would like to spruce up an area and call it our own, for kind of like our dirt bike club, and just so we have a place to go fishing and all those things. And he goes, well, heck yeah, have at it. And he goes, just anything you do, just let me know. He said, I don't need to approve it, just so that I notice if something's being done, you can go about it. So the boys and I talked about it, and we all decided we were going to build, first and foremost, a little dock out into what we called Alley's Pond, because we had a John boat that was my granddaddy's that we hauled up here from Roanoke back over to the Eastern Shore. And we were going to park that there and use that. And we were going to build trails all the way around, and we were going to build a motocross right behind it. And we did all that. So we worked on that from the time we were 12 years old, 11 or 12, until through college. And we had a complex. And we had a shed that was locked, and you could keep your bike there if you wanted to. And we had spare parts, and we had all kinds of stuff. We even had fresh water. We had everything that you would want to go have a playground out kind of in the woods. You could fish that. We stocked that every year, had Maryland DNR come by and just dump bass and trout and anything else in it. And we had a place to fish, and we loved that place. And we worked hard to keep it that way. We had bought chainsaws. We stole stuff from our grandparents and our parents. We stole half of Alley's stuff. He was an electrician, but had this whole truck full of tools. Whenever we needed something, we just took it out of his truck. And this place was immaculate. We sawed down trees. We cut down limbs. We mowed around it. It was a show place. So my sons are old enough to start riding dirt bikes, and we're living up on the farm in Mount Jackson. And I said, you know what, guys? I can take you to the greatest place ever. It's awesome. They're like, where? I said, I'm going to take you to Alley's Pond over the next time we go see Mimi and Pop-Pop, and we're going to load the motorcycles, and we're going to take them, and we're going to have a blast. All right, yay, it's awesome. So we loaded them up, and the kids are maybe, 5 and 8. Pig had one of those little 50s that would barely go, going along. Jordan had a KX80, and he thought he was the big man on campus, and I had a Yamaha YZ225 that was tricked out, and we took those all over the place, and here we are. We get over there, and I can't even find the road. Mm-hmm. You see, I'm in my 30s, maybe 40 at that point. My kids are 5 and 8 maybe. I go down Dykes Road to Dykes Pits, which is where everybody went to drink beer and smoke pot, or both. You go there and you turn right. You go down Dykes Road about half a mile till you get to Odie Stevenson's farm, and there's a chicken house there. And then when you get to the chicken house, you turn down through his lane, and you get to the end of the lane, and then you see the little lane that goes to Alley's Pond. There's only one problem, Gary. There's no road. So the boys are going, yay, we're going to ride motorcycles, yay! Daddy, are you lost? I said, I don't think so. I grew up here. I don't know. I said, well, we got to do some investigation. So we all pile out of the truck, and we start walking. And I get to where Mr. Stevenson's chicken house would have been, because it's no longer there. And we start walking back, and I vaguely see just a little glimpse of a culvert that my buddies and I put in so the drainage would go through our entrance to our motorcycle wonderland. And then we roamed back through there in places where I knew was places that as we got older, we parked our trucks, parked our Camaros and everything else. That parking place really wasn't there. We couldn't even find the gravel we had put. It had overgrown. Couldn't even find the pond. Pond had dried up because no one was keeping the spring going. The trails were gone. And the only remnants of what we thought was a motorcycle place was the berms that we had made. Because it's the Eastern Shore, it's flat as a pancake. So any little hills you create probably stand the test of time. So Jordan, being Jordan and the loving child that he is, goes, man, this sucks, this is bull. We hauled my motorcycle all the way over here, there's no place, we should have stayed at the farm. This is a joke. Yeah, big deal, Dad. I'm like, feeling really bad now, right? I was sentimental, then that's not there. Now my kid's being a smart, pig and his normal, just big-hearted self. It's all right, Dad. Is there ice cream around here? Sure, we'll find you ice cream, bud. It went from a show palace. I tried to find pictures, church, so I could bring them to show you, but it was a show palace. It was something 5 kids got together and started on and worked on all the way through into our 20s. And we thought we had built something that our kids could come to. But guess what? If you don't tend to it, it gets overgrown. And the Lord is talking to the nation of Israel, and he says, I have given you perfection. I put it out there for you, and you managed to screw it up. You didn't take care of it. And because you haven't taken care of it, now I'm going to show you what happens when you don't take care of your vineyard. I'm going to show you what happens when you don't take care of your fishing hole and your motorcycle track. I'm going to let it become overgrown so that it's unusable. So that it is locked into your memory bank that I control the birds and the seeds. I control the rain. I control the wind, not you. And until you get in concert with what I have planned for the nation of Israel, I will rain down on Judah bad luck and otherwise. God was upset with the nation of Israel at this point, and he was looking for ways to jerk a knot in their tail so that they would get it. I don't want to put myself in God's place, but I know maybe just a little inkling of how he felt. I built all this for you. It couldn't have been left any nicer. I put a protective hedge around it. I put a watchtower so you can make sure critters weren't getting into it. I even put you a wine press so that as you harvested grapes, you can make your own wine right there. You didn't even have to transport the grapes. I did all of this for you. I put you in a place in which you could succeed, and you managed to screw it up. And because you screwed it up mostly not but what you did, but by what you didn't do. Most of the sins of the nation of Israel weren't acts of commission. They were acts of omission. And so he meaning God, he wanted to drive the point home through Isaiah's prophecies and Isaiah's teachings. Look here. When you don't do something, it has consequences as big or greater than when you do something wrong. And so, Ali at that point was really feeble. He was in his mid-80s at that point. We all went to him, and Pig and Jordan and I said, I'm going to go introduce you to Mr. Ali. He saw you when you were little babies, but he hadn't seen you where you can walk and talk on your own. So we went by, and I just asked him. I said, Alfred, what happened to the pond in our motorcycle track? He goes, there's this word. I said, well, okay. You going to give me the word? He goes, yeah. Apathy. Pig goes, what's apathy mean? Means, kind of, son, we don't care. He goes, well, I care. I'm looking for a place to ride my motorcycle. There ain't no place to ride a motorcycle. And I brought that stupid fishing pole all the way from Mount Jackson, Virginia, and there ain't no place to fish. And I said, son, first of all, we're on a peninsula, so there's water everywhere. I'll take you fishing, but I get your point. But apathy. A lot of what was happening to the nation of Israel was, well, here's things God wanted us to do, but okay. I'm just going to go about my day. How many times, church, have you just gone about your day apathetically? How many times have you walked right past your vineyard when it's a little messed up and you should have picked 4 or 5 weeds and you didn't? How many times have you walked by a brother or a sister, not even in Christ, just a brother or sister on this planet, and seen that they were in trouble or they were in need and just went, you did nothing. You didn't do anything bad, but you didn't do anything in concert with God's will or word either. And so I had another discussion with Ali while we were there, and I said, well, I thought that Corn, that's his nephew, Corn. His name's Jay, but we call him Corn. I said, I thought Corn was going to be like our caretaker. And he goes, got into drag cars, spends every Saturday and Sunday up at the drag strip. He didn't really care about it anymore. He doesn't ride dirt bikes. He doesn't have any kids. He left it to go. And I said, well, what about Wade? And he goes, same thing with Wade, but Wade got a job at DuPont. He works weekends, so he really doesn't fool with it either. I said, well, what about Scotty? He said, well, Scotty got killed 2 years ago in a car crash, so he's not there to take care of it. And he says, and I'm old and feeble, and I'm not going to do it. You moved away. He said, your brother moved away. And he goes, there was nobody else to do anything with it, so it just kind of went to pot. Apathy. He said, it wasn't important enough to y'all, except for Scotty, who's dead. And he said, and I'm too old to fool with it. He said, it would have been nice to keep it up. He said, it'd be nice if somebody continued to open up the ditch and clear out the spring so that the pond filled with water, but nobody was doing that. Nobody called DNR anymore and asked for fish to stock the pond anyway. So what does it matter? So I ask you, church, what does it matter? We often look at the end result of something and we ask this question: what if? What if we just put a little more effort into A, B, or C? What if we stepped into a void as a church and served? What if we just raised that brother or sister up in prayer? What if we went and fed the homeless? What if we stopped in the middle of a race and went and bought $200 or $300 worth of water and drug it around a racetrack and handed it out to people in the sun who looked like they couldn't go get it for themselves? What if we took care of the vineyard in the form and in the way that God had intended it when He gave it to us? What if? What if we made the world a better place? Well, I'm going to tell you something, church. If the church is not willing and able to do it, then who is? Now, I want to go real Old Testament on here for a minute, Gary, if you don't mind. The bottom line here is, you know what those weeds are? Those weeds in our personal lives, in our church lives, in our faith lives, is the devil at work in your life. And he plants seed just as Jesus does. And if you don't think that that's the case, then we need to sit down and have a discussion. Because, brothers and sisters, Satan is alive and well in this church. He's alive and well in your life. He's alive and well in your finances. He's alive and well in your vineyard. And if you aren't tending to the vineyard, and you aren't pulling weeds, and you aren't taking care of the protective hedge that's been put around your vineyard, it will grow over on you. And you will have nothing to pick but bad grapes, if you have any grapes at all. I asked you this morning to read with me the Apostles' Creed so that we could define what Jesus is and who He is and who God is in 3 parts. I can't, church, in good faith, stand here and be your pastor and preach about Jesus if I'm not willing to tell you about Satan himself. You can't have one without the other. We can't proclaim that this place called heaven is wonderful and it exists for us if we're not willing to acknowledge hell. So, there was great disappointment in my truck as my kids wondered, well, we were going to see this wonderful place, and it doesn't even exist anymore. I wonder what happened. But it's all grown up. Sure don't look like no racetrack, Pops. Wonder how many people come to the gospel and come to the church and look for answers and look for a safe haven for their soul. And the church goes, and it leaves those who are broken going, well, I don't see no church. I wonder what happened. Church, the biggest thing we can do to live out our faith is to make sure that we are as perfect a reflection as we can be of Jesus in this world. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to fall short. That is what it is. But that doesn't mean we don't have a duty to move forward in our faith and be the true gardeners of the vineyard in which we were given by God the Father Almighty. I pray this week that as you go through your week, you find a way to be that reflection of Jesus in a place called earth that is broken and full of weeds and full of sin and full of ill will and ill thought. And just for a brief moment, if you can, be Jesus in somebody's life, so that when they look and they come to the church, they look and see, so that's what you're talking about. That's way different than, I wonder what happened. Amen? Amen. Amen.